So my name is Kerry Moynihan. I'm a potential physical anthropologist with a focus in primatology. Eventually I want to have my master's and my PhD in physical anthropology, and I also want to have my own restaurant. So those are like my two main goals in my life. But because of a brain injury and stuff, I've been really knocked into a situation where I'm doing this. So I do want to be able to educate people to an extent, just because I think it's important for people to understand anthropology in general, whether it's physical anthropology, cultural anthropology, just because it's a study of humans, it's us. So in the previous video, what I briefly talked about, and this whole playlist is going to be on, is the origin of humanity, origin of humans in the biological sense. So I talked about the split between chimpanzees and humans, which occurred around 6 million years ago. Before that, you had that split between gorillas and humans, which occurred around 10 million years ago. And before that, you had that split with orangutans, which happened around 12 million years ago. And all of these splits we see in evolution, as I've stated before, it wasn't that linear equation, if you will. It was more of the branching off of species from a common ancestor. So we did not evolve from chimps, but we do have a common ancestor with them. And a hypothesis, or I should say a theory, based on few specimen that we found on this species, is that Sahelanthropus chadensis was this common ancestor. Now, it wasn't just like somebody came off the tree that was a different species that we had never seen before and was suddenly walking. These processes happen over tens of hundreds of thousands of millions of years. So they don't just happen all of a sudden. But with the few specimens that we do have of this species, Sahelanthropus chadensis, and just like I've stated before, that origin out of Africa, Sahelanthropus chadensis came out of Chad. That's the few specimen that we have of Sahelanthropus chadensis, and we only have been in possession of those specimens since about 2002. So this is very recent, and while this genome distribution, and when we see the similarities between chimpanzees, 98% or 98.4% more specifically between chimpanzees and humans, that really close comparison of the genomes, how they're almost exactly the same, just that they're our closest living relatives. And we looked at Sahelanthropus chadensis, with these cranial specimens that we do have, we can make a little bit of determinations about this species connection to that split. So Sahelanthropus chadensis, as I said, found in West Africa, in Chad. What we do have of Sahelanthropus chadensis is their cranial specimens, and the foramen magnum, which is a part of the cranium. It's the part of your cranium beneath your cranium on the bottom, and on us it's in the center. Now, and I have a cold too. If you look at other mammals, let's take a mammal that walks on all fours, like a dog, and I'm not a drawer, but let's say that that's a dog skull. The foramen magnum on a dog is towards the back. So that connection to the spinal cord to the brain is in the back of the dog's head. And that's because the dog walks on all fours. It doesn't have to worry about bipedalism. It walks on all fours. There's no reason for it to ever get up and have to balance its head. So the balance completely rests with it constantly facing down. So that's why that hole is in the back of its head. If you look at a chimpanzee, modern day chimpanzee, again, not a drawer, but that chimp has the foramen magnum a little bit closer to the center. And that's because it's not quite in the center, but it's further towards the center than it would be on a dog. And that's because chimps are only slightly bipedal. They can walk for short distances on two legs. They're also known to exhibit dominance by standing on two legs. So it doesn't really, again though, they're not like us. They can't walk for long distances bipedal. In fact, if a chimp is doing that too much, it's considered a bad thing because it's not good for their skull and for a lot, just for their whole physique. But if you do look at us, our foramen magnum is in the center. And that's because we're mainly bipedal. We don't walk on four legs. So that is in the center of our heads.